Do you know the real reason Mama Aisha's food was the most delicious in town? People lined up for hours just to get a taste. But what if I told you the secret ingredient wasn't seasoning? It was something far more disturbing. So grab your seat and don't eat anything while watching, because what you're about to hear will change the way you look at restaurants forever. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another chilling tale. And before we dive in, drop your country in the comments. I want to know where my amazing viewers are tuning in from. This is the chilling tale of Mama Aisha's delight. In the bustling heart of town, where the aroma of sizzling meats and spiced stews wafted through the air, Mama Aisha reigned supreme. Her restaurant, Aisha's Delight, was always packed, drawing in patrons from near and far. The lines outside stretched down the street, her dishes renowned for their tantalizing flavors and mouth-watering aroma. Competitors envied her success, but none could replicate her magic. Matthew, a lanky teenager with sharp eyes and a restless curiosity, often helped his mother, Mummy Matthew, at their modest restaurant. Unlike Mama Aisha's establishment, their place saw fewer customers. Business dwindled while Mama Aisha thrived, and resentment grew in the hearts of struggling restaurant owners. One evening, after another slow day, Matthew sat at the counter, absent-mindedly wiping the same spot over and over. His mother sighed as she counted the few naira notes they had earned. "I don't understand it," she muttered, shaking her head. "I followed all the traditional recipes, used the best spices, but my customers are disappearing to her place. It's like she's put a spell on them." Matthew frowned. "Mom, what if she has?" he asked hesitantly. His mother looked up sharply. "Matthew, don't speak like that. Spells and magic are old wives' tales. Mama Aisha just knows how to cook." Matthew wasn't convinced. He had seen people go into her restaurant and come out with a dazed, almost euphoric look. It wasn't normal. Maybe, but something isn't right. I mean, how does she always have a full house while everyone else is struggling? Even Mr. Tundi, who has been cooking for 30 years, barely has customers anymore. Mommy Matthew exhaled heavily. "Some people just have the gift, my son. But you, keep your nose out of trouble." Matthew nodded, but had no intention of letting it go. Later that night, as his mother cleaned up, he leaned against the doorframe, watching her scrub the pots. "Mom, do you remember when Papa was still here? Our restaurant was never this empty," he said softly. Mommy Matthew froze for a moment before continuing. "Yes, things were different then, but your father had a way with people. He made them feel at home. But even then, we never had lines like hers," Matthew pointed out. His mother sighed and shook her head. "Matthew, some things are best left alone. Mama Aisha has been blessed. Just focus on helping me." Matthew stared at her, determination hardening in his gaze. "I need to know, Mom. I need to understand why." She gave him a long look before nodding slightly. "Just be careful." As the last of their few customers left, he made a decision. He would find out Mama Aisha's secret, no matter what. He glanced across the street at Aisha's Delight, its lights glowing warmly against the night sky, and felt a shiver run down his spine. Something told him that whatever he would uncover would change everything. Matthew began spending more time near Mama Aisha's restaurant, observing her routine. He noticed something strange. Every evening after closing, she would disappear for a while, only to return later with a clay pot covered with a red cloth. No one knew where she went, and no one questioned her. One evening, he saw her slip into an alley behind the market, Heart pounding, Matthew followed at a safe distance. The narrow alley smelled of damp earth and discarded food. He pressed himself against the wall as Mama Aisha emerged from a side door and walked toward a secluded area. Matthew gulped. What was she doing here so late at night? His breath caught as he saw her enter a dimly lit building. It took him a moment to recognize it, the mortuary. A chill ran down his spine. Why would she be here? He whispered to himself. The thought of following her inside made his stomach turn. Just then, a movement caught his eye. A tall man, wearing a long robe, emerged from the shadows and handed Mama Aisha a jug filled with a dark liquid. She nodded and tucked it into her basket before disappearing back into the alley. Matthew's mind raced. What had he just witnessed? He needed to find out more. But he also knew one thing. He was getting too close to something dangerous. His hands trembled as he turned to leave, but he accidentally kicked a tin can, sending it clattering across the ground. He froze. Mama Aisha's head snapped up. Her piercing gaze swept the alley. Who's there? She called, her voice sharp. Matthew held his breath, pressing himself tightly against the wall. Silence stretched. Then she turned and disappeared into the shadows, carrying her mysterious package. Matthew let out a slow, shaky exhale. He needed to be more careful. Whatever Mama Aisha was up to, he was certain now. This wasn't just about food. Something much darker was at play. As he made his way back home, his mind buzzed with questions. Who was that man? What was in the jug? And why was Mama Aisha visiting a mortuary? One thing was certain. He couldn't stop now. He had to uncover the truth, no matter the risk. Determined to find out more, Matthew decided to return the next night and sneak into the building. Armed with nothing but his courage and a flashlight, he waited until the town had settled into sleep. The streets were silent, the only sound coming from distant dogs barking and the occasional hoot of an owl. Slipping into the cemetery, his heart pounded with anticipation. The moon cast eerie shadows over the graves, making them seem alive. He reached the mortuary building, its wooden door slightly ajar. He hesitated before stepping inside, his breath shallow. A foul stench greeted him, thick and putrid, making him gag. He pulled his shirt over his nose and took a cautious step forward. The dim beam of his flashlight illuminated rows of shelves lined with bowls and jugs of water, each one marked with strange symbols. His eyes darted around the room, taking in the bizarre and unsettling sight. His breath hitched as realization dawned on him. This was water used to cleanse dead bodies before burial. His stomach churned. He clutched his flashlight tighter. "What the hell?" he muttered under his breath. Just then, a noise echoed from deeper inside the building. A soft shuffling, followed by a quiet rustling, as if someone or something was moving. Matthew's muscles tensed. He turned off his flashlight and crouched behind a wooden table covered in old rags. He peeked through a gap between the shelves. A figure emerged from the darkness. It was the same tall man he had seen before, the one who had given Mama Aisha the jug of liquid. He moved deliberately, picking up a jug and inspecting it before placing it in a large woven basket. Matthew held his breath, watching as the man whispered something under his breath. It sounded like a chant. Matthew's mind raced. Was this a ritual? Was Mama Aisha involved in something far darker than he had imagined? Suddenly, the man's head snapped up. "Who's there?" His deep voice boomed. Matthew's heart leapt into his throat. He tried to remain still, barely breathing. The man stepped forward, scanning the room. The flashlight in Matthew's hand felt like a lead weight. If he moved even a fraction, he would be caught. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Then, as if satisfied that he was alone, the man grabbed the basket and exited through a back door, disappearing into the night. Matthew exhaled shakily. His pulse was racing. He knew one thing for sure. He had uncovered something truly sinister, and he had to warn his mother before it was too late. Matthew raced home, his mind spinning with possibilities. His heart pounded against his ribs, and his breath came in ragged gasps as he sprinted through the quiet streets. What he had just discovered sent chills down his spine, but he needed answers. He needed to know if his father had been a victim of whatever dark secret Mama Aisha was hiding. As he burst into the kitchen, he found his mother sitting at the wooden table, her fingers tracing the edges of an old faded picture, one of his father. The dim glow of the oil lamp illuminated her sorrow-filled eyes. "Mom!" Matthew gasped, still catching his breath. "Did Dad ever eat at Aisha's delight?" Mommy Matthew looked up, startled by his urgency. "What kind of question is that, Matthew?" she asked, frowning. "Please, Mom, just tell me the truth. Did he insisted. She sighed and glanced down at the photo again, her fingers trembling slightly. "Your father loved that place," she admitted. "He was one of her first loyal customers. He would go there after work, swearing that her food was the best he'd ever had. But after a while, he started getting sick." Matthew's breath hitched. "Sick? What do you mean?" She nodded, her eyes distant as if reliving a painful memory. "At first, it was just stomach pains. Then he grew weaker. He lost weight. He would wake up at night drenched in sweat, shaking. We took him to different doctors, but none of them could tell us what was wrong. They gave him medicines, but nothing worked. And then," her voice broke. She swallowed hard before continuing. "And then, one morning he didn't wake up. Just like that." Matthew's blood ran cold. His hands curled into fists. "Mom! What if Mama Aisha's food had something to do with it? What if Dad wasn't just sick? What if he was poisoned?" Mommy Matthew looked at him sharply. "Matthew, what are you saying? That woman has been in this town for years. People love her food. If something was wrong..." "Wouldn't someone have noticed?" Matthew shook his head. "Not if they never made the connection. What if she's been doing something to the food? What if Dad wasn't the only one?" His mother's expression darkened. "Matthew, you're talking nonsense. This is dangerous thinking. People get sick for many reasons. There's no proof." "What if I find proof?" Matthew's voice was steady, unwavering. Matthew's mom's face softened, but her eyes were filled with worry. With newfound determination, Matthew decided to confront Mama Aisha. He waited until the evening rush died down, then walked into her restaurant. The warm aroma of spices filled the air, mingling with the low hum of conversation from the few remaining customers. His heart pounded as he approached the counter, where Mama Aisha stood, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked up, her piercing eyes locking onto his. "Matthew," she greeted smoothly, her voice honeyed, but laced with something unreadable. "What brings you here so late?" He swallowed hard, but kept his voice steady. "Mama Aisha, I know what you're doing." She arched an eyebrow, amusement flickering across her face. "And what exactly do you think I'm doing, boy?" Matthew clenched his fists. "The water you use, it's from the burial grounds. You're cooking with it." Silence stretched between them. The room felt smaller, the flickering lanterns casting elongated shadows across the walls. The few customers left seemed oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. A slow smile curled on Mama Aisha's lips. You have quite the imagination, child. And where did you hear such nonsense? Matthew's throat tightened. I saw it with my own eyes. I followed you. I saw the jugs in the mortuary. I know the truth. Mama Aisha's eyes darkened, the warmth in them vanishing like a snuffed-out flame. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. You should mind your business, child. Some truths are better left buried. A chill ran down Matthew's spine, but he stood his ground. Not when people's lives are at stake. My father ate here. He got sick. And he wasn't the only one, was he? Mama Aisha's jaw tightened, but her expression remained composed. Your father was a good man, she said, her voice almost regretful. But sometimes fate has its own plans. That wasn't fate, Matthew snapped. You did something, and I won't stop until I prove it. She leaned in, her face inches from his. Be careful, Matthew. Curiosity is a dangerous thing, and the dead do not take kindly to being disturbed. Matthew swallowed the lump in his throat, then turned and stormed out. But he knew one thing. Mama Aisha wasn't just going to let him walk away without consequences. Mommy Matthew was terrified when her son told her the truth. She stood frozen, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter, as if she needed support to keep herself from collapsing. The flickering oil lamp cast trembling shadows on the wall, mirroring the fear in her eyes. You don't understand, Matthew, she whispered, her voice barely above her breath. If what you're saying is true, then Mama Aisha is dangerous. If she finds out you know, she won't let you just walk away. Matthew clenched his fists. But we have to stop her, Mom. If she killed Dad, if she's poisoning the town, we can't let her continue. Mommy Matthew shook her head furiously. Matthew, you're just a boy. This isn't a game. Mama Aisha has power, real power. People respect her, fear her even. Do you think the authorities will believe you over her? Do you think the town will turn against the woman who feeds them? Matthew exhaled sharply, frustration boiling in his chest. So what do we do? Just sit here and let her get away with it? Let more people die? His mother looked at him with a mix of fear and sorrow. Then we need proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. Matthew paced the small kitchen, rubbing his temples. I have pictures of the jugs in the mortuary, the water, the symbols. Mommy Matthew cut him off. That's not enough, Matthew. We need evidence that links it directly to her food. Something no one can ignore. If you accuse her without solid proof, you'll be the one in danger. Matthew's mind raced. Then I have to go back. I have to catch her in the act. His mother's eyes widened in horror. No, Matthew! That's too risky. If she even suspects what you're doing. She already knows, Matthew interrupted. She warned me tonight, told me some truths are better left buried. She's not going to stop, Mom, and neither am I. Mommy Matthew took a shaky breath and gripped his hands. Then we do this smart. We plan. We don't rush in like fools. If we make one wrong move, we could both end up like your father. Matthew swallowed hard. He saw the fear in her eyes, but he also saw something else. Determination. His mother wasn't going to sit idly by anymore, and neither was he. Matthew devised a plan to collect evidence. He knew he had to be careful. One mistake, and Mama Aisha would catch him. He waited until the town was asleep, then crept out of his house, his heart pounding with anticipation. The night air was thick and humid, making every sound seem amplified. He moved swiftly through the dimly lit streets, his mind focused on his mission. As he approached Mama Aisha's restaurant, he pressed himself against the wall. scanning the area for any movement. The street was empty. Taking a deep breath, he slipped through the back door, which, to his surprise, was slightly ajar. Inside, the kitchen was dark, except for the glow of embers in the cooking pit. The smell of spices lingered in the air, mingling with something more pungent, something that sent a shiver down his spine. He moved cautiously, opening cupboards and checking pots, looking for anything that would confirm his suspicions. As he rummaged through the shelves, his fingers brushed against something cold. A row of clay jugs sat neatly tucked away in a corner. He carefully lifted one, recognizing the symbols etched into its surface, just like the ones he had seen at the mortuary. His breath hitched. A sudden creak of the floorboards made him freeze. His heart pounded in his ears as he ducked under a counter just as the kitchen door swung open. He held his breath, pressing himself into the shadows. Mama Aisha entered, humming to herself, her silhouette eerie in the dim light. She moved with practiced ease, lifting the lid off a steaming pot. A murmur of strange words escaped her lips as she stirred, her voice almost melodic, yet unsettling. Matthew dared a glance and saw her reach for one of the jugs. She lifted it, tilting it over the pot, and a murky, almost viscous liquid poured into the bubbling stew. The air thickened, the aroma turning pungent and unnatural. A chill ran down his spine. His stomach twisted. This was it. The proof he needed. But then Mama Aisha stopped. She turned slightly, her head tilting as if she sensed something. Matthew bit his lip, praying she wouldn't check the shadows. Armed with evidence, Matthew and his mother alerted the authorities. The health inspectors arrived at Mama Aisha's restaurant early the next morning, accompanied by stern-faced officers. The townspeople gathered in clusters, whispering anxiously as they watched the raid unfold. For years, Mama Aisha's restaurant had been the crown jewel of the town, a place where people feasted without question. But today, the doors were being sealed shut. "What is the meaning of this?" Mama Aisha demanded as the officer stormed into her kitchen, her usual composure wavering just slightly. "We have reason to believe that your food has been contaminated with an illegal and hazardous substance," an inspector declared, pulling off the lid of a steaming pot. The pungent aroma filled the air, but this time, instead of hunger, it triggered nausea. The officers found the hidden jugs, the strange symbols on the walls, and the ingredients that no one could explain. Murmurs turned to gasps as the truth unraveled before the town's eyes. "Is this what we've been eating?" someone in the crowd asked, their voice thick with disbelief. "I fed this to my children," a woman wailed, clutching her stomach as if she could expel the memories of the meals she had once enjoyed. The betrayal hit the town like a storm. People who had once praised Mama Aisha's cooking now recoiled in horror, their appetites replaced by a revulsion. The trust she had cultivated for years crumbled in an instant, leaving only fear and fury in its wake. When the officers placed her in handcuffs, Mama Aisha did not resist. She simply turned her gaze to Matthew, her eyes dark and knowing. A slow smile curled on her lips, sending a shiver down his spine. As she was led past him, she leaned in just enough for him to hear. "You've ruined everything," she whispered, "but the spirits will not be silenced." Matthew's stomach twisted, but he refused to look away. "You'll never hurt anyone again," he replied firmly, though a chill lingered in the air long after she was gone. The town would heal, but the shadows of Mama Aisha's secrets would haunt them forever.